Namaste. Welcome to Shanti in Place. This is our weekly meditation offering hosted by the Hindu Life Program at the Office of Religious Life at Princeton University. We're grateful to you for making the time to join us, whether you're joining us through Zoom, joining us live here at Murray Dodge in the Office of Religious Life, or if you are catching up with us on YouTube. I want to invite everyone just to take a moment to settle into your seat, make any adjustments you need to make. I'm going to make some adjustments to my laptop here. When we sit to meditate, it's very helpful to, as far as possible, to minimize any distractions in our external surroundings. That's not always possible. It's a little difficult sometimes, and it's also quite humbling, and it's quite healthy to recognize those things that are outside of our control. So the room that I'm sitting in borders a construction site here on campus, as some of you all know, and so we might get some construction sounds that carry into the room, and that is, of course, beyond our control. But whatever is reasonably within our control, whether that means shutting a door or a window or turning our phones off or to silent, what a gift we can give ourselves if we can free ourselves from our devices, if even just for 20 minutes or half an hour a day. But whatever we can do to free ourselves from distractions in the external realm. And of course, we'll endeavor to do the same internally. So taking that minute or two to take stock of where we are, to minimize or remove any distractions that are reasonably within our control to do so. An invitation here to close the eyes if we haven't already done so, or perhaps if we feel more comfortable, we can simply soften the gaze. A trick to facilitate softening the gaze, if that's new to us as well, is we can just choose a stationary spot, maybe somewhere on our laptop or piece of furniture or even the wall in front of us. And we can kind of half close the eyes, but keep that fixed spot the center of our gaze. So we just kind of focus in with soft eyes onto that fixed spot. And naturally, it kind of causes us to soften the gaze. We'll begin our formal sit by taking 3 deep breaths together. We'll breathe in for about 4 beats, 4 counts. We'll hold the breath for about 4 counts. And then let's see if we can lengthen the breath on the exhale to about 6 counts or 6 beats. So we'll begin, and you're welcome to follow along the pace that I'm setting, or if there is another pace that feels a little bit more natural and accessible to you, you're welcome to keep that pace. We'll begin with the ringing of the bell, and we'll take these 3 deep breaths in together. Breathing in. Holding. And out. Again, breathing in. Hold. 2, 3. And out. One last time in, holding, release. Continuing to breathe slowly and deeply with intention, and allowing the breath to settle into itself, to find its own natural rhythm in this moment. And as our breath settles into itself, as we find that natural, restful rhythm, just noticing the breath, just allowing ourselves to rest our awareness on the breath. Noticing the breath is not controlling the breath, it's just tuning our awareness into what's happening of its own accord. In one sense, we can tune our awareness into just about anything as an object of our awareness, as a way of grounding ourselves and noticing. But the breath is especially recommended, perhaps because it's so simple, so basic, so fundamental to who we are as living embodied beings. Breath is maybe the most natural, fundamental thing we do. As some teachers put it, it's the first thing that we do when we enter into these forms of embodiment, these particular lifetimes. It will be the very last thing we do in these embodied forms, perhaps. And between those two opening and closing breaths, it is the thing that sustains every single moment in between. This simple act of breathing in and out is so fundamental, in fact, that we may be tempted to take it for granted, to allow it to recede so much in the background that practically speaking, we ignore it or we tune it out. And so, this simple meditation practice that's found in different traditions and different schools of meditation and mindfulness, it's simply using our intention in some ways to reverse that tendency and to tune in to this most basic, most foundational, simplest miracle that sustains us. And to allow our minds, our thoughts, ultimately our consciousness itself to rest on this foundation that is our most natural foundation anyway. Noticing perhaps any physical sensations that accompany this flowing in and out of breath. Noticing anything that we're feeling in this moment in the physical body. In our limbs, perhaps. In the belly. Noticing perhaps the sensation within the cavity of the chest as the breath flows in and out. As we pull in air, as we hold air, as we release air. Noticing perhaps sensations around the senses. Noticing perhaps a feeling of touch, the sensation of smell perhaps, or of taste, if there's any taste as we're breathing in and out. Noticing anything in our vision or even the flickering of shapes or light. Is there perhaps a sound or sounds that accompany our flow of breath? Or perhaps that are competing for attention? Or simply noticing. And then gently bringing our awareness back to the breath. If we find the thoughts wandering, or the mind resisting, perhaps, as some teachers say, the mind pulling us or pushing us, we can simply acknowledge that without judgment. And then bring the mind, the thoughts back to the breath, back to this moment. Where our only commitment is this precious commitment or precious opportunity that we're giving ourselves to rest our awareness on this breath, on this moment. Continuing to rest our awareness on the breath. If we'd like to, we can now more intentionally take notice of more subtle sensations that may accompany the breath. Sensations of the mind, of the thoughts. Perhaps in a slightly deeper way, sensations that are located in the heart space, emotional sensations. We don't have to analyze these, we can just notice them, accepting them for what they are in this moment. If it's helpful to us, we can name these feelings, or perhaps just observe them as textures. So often we identify so strongly with our feelings, with our thoughts, with our impressions. Very often not even realizing that we're doing so. In this moment, we can simply observe them, knowing that they are within us, they are perhaps even part of us, but they're not us. They don't define us. That we can observe them. Just as we might observe a scene in nature or a painting hanging on the wall of a museum. With curiosity, maybe even with wonder or appreciation, as an observer. We will continue to practice being observers for the final few minutes of our sit together in silence. Knowing that we can and will always return to the foundation of the breath as the resting place of our awareness, as the anchor to these precious few moments that we're giving to ourselves. Let's sit for a few more minutes, observing in intentional and thoughtful silence. We'll bring our meditation sit to a close with one final deep breath in together, breathing in, holding the breath, and then releasing the breath, exhaling out the sacred syllable Om, the sound of the universal and the infinite. Breathing in. Om. An invitation to open the eyes or widen the gaze, returning our awareness, our presence to our physical external surroundings and to our gathering together in person or virtually. Thank you so much for the gift of your presence, your participation, for the gift of rest and restful awareness. Thank you so much. Please join us next week as well for Shanti in Place, our weekly meditation session. Namaste.